All right, I'd like to welcome people back again to the Blues Backstage here at the Baton Rouge Blues Festival. I'm Herman Fusilier. It's a pleasure to interview Mr. Sugar Harp. And I want to remind you, too, this stage has been brought to you by the Louisiana Endowment for the Humanities. It's very important. Mr. Sugar Harp, good to see you.
It's good to be here.
With a name like Sugar Harp, you got to be a bad man on the harmonica.
Well, it's kind of a long story. Make a long story short. How I picked up the name. When I was in the Air Force, when I was overseas, I was in the Air Force, and the Air Force uniforms they got a big U.S. on them.
Yes.
And the guys from the Army and the Marines used to call us Uncle Sugars because we slept on sheets and they were out there in the mud.
Okay.
And plus, I was a munitions officer
Okay.
also, and I distributed ammunition and weapons.
Yeah.
And a lot of Marines would, instead of going to their munitions officer, they would come to us, and you could exchange one weapon for another weapon.
Yeah.
And they were saying that our weapons are in better shape and better condition because we never used them.
Okay.
And they used to call us, if you want good ammunition and good weapons, you have to go see Uncle Sugar.
Okay.
U.S. was Uncle Sugar.
Interesting, yeah.
So by me playing harmonica, I dropped the uncle and just say sugar.
Yeah.
And then a young lady came to me and one day she says, you know what? Sugar. Guys are not going to want to call you that name, Sugar.
Uh-huh.
She says, but you play such a sweet harmonica. Why don't you just call yourself Sugar Harp? I said, that sounds good. And
Yeah.
a young lady, I don't know where she's at now. She named me, so.
Wow, that's awesome. It's a great name for a blues man and a harmonica player.
I got to make a little joke here.
Uh-huh.
My surname is Charles Burroughs, right?
Yeah.
Which would you like to hear on stage? Here's Charles Burroughs. Or would you say, here's Sugar Harp?
Here's Sugar Harp. Yeah, that's a sweet name. Yes, indeed. Yeah. And how long have you been performing? Is it like 65, 70 years you've been playing music?
I want to share a story with you. I used to go from Florida. I was born in Columbus, Georgia, migrated to Florida as a kid.
Yeah.
My father was in the Navy, and my mother's grandfather, which is my great-grandfather, is Native American. And he lives in Plains, Georgia. Plains, Georgia, his land connects with Jimmy Carter's land.
I knew that sounded familiar, yeah.
Yeah, in Plains, Georgia.
So that property actually connected?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
They both were peanut farmers.
Okay, interesting. Yeah.
And in them days, peanut farmers, they shared everything.
Okay.
And he used to sit up. They had a front porch with no banisters on it, just poles. And he and his friends used to sit out there on the front porch and play handmade instruments.
Wow.
He had you remember Bo Diddley at the
Yeah.
Square? He was before Bo Diddley. He made an orange crate guitar.
Oh, wow.
An
Wow.
orange crate.
Okay.
With baling wire, had 3 strings.
Okay.
And one of his friends played called a front porch bass. You know what that is?
No.
It's weird that on the banister, you put a nail on top of the banister, and you run the wire down to the porch.
I have seen that, yeah.
And how you tune it, you tighten the wire really tight.
Yeah.
And when you thump that bass and you shorten the string like you do on a guitar, you get a different sound.
Yeah.
Plus, the house was the resonator.
The house, the
The
whole
whole
house.
porch would go thump.
Yeah.
You know, and I was so enthused about that. And we had a guy that played jugs, wash tub,
Yeah. Seen that.
washboard,
Yeah.
spoons.
Yeah.
I mean, everything you could imagine. Everybody, it was like a big orchestra.
Yeah.
But he played harmonica, and he had the big rubber bands that you take off the collard greens. He had them around his ear, on the back of the harmonica, in his mouth, and his guitar in his lap. And he played the guitar upright like a slide guitar with a bottleneck.
Okay.
And they used to get out there on Saturday afternoons and play until late at night.
Wow.
And they would drink their corn liquor and
Yeah.
barbecue and everything. Best smelling food you want to smell.
I'll bet. Yeah.
And one day, I seen his he had a harmonica laying right beside him.
Mm-hmm.
So I walked over and I grabbed the harmonica and I took it and I put it in my mouth. I went to put it in my mouth and he hit me. Pow!
Mm-hmm.
He said, never pick up another man's axe. But
Yeah.
because of my granddaddy, I thought it was all right.
Yeah.
He said, no, I don't care who it is. You know what an axe means, right?
Well, explain it. Go ahead.
In the music business, an axe is a person's instrument.
Yeah.
They call it the axe.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he says, but do you want to learn how to play this, sir? I says, yes, sir. This was heartbreaking news when I was younger. I couldn't speak a word until I was 8 years old. And the
Really?
reason why, I started from a speech impediment called stuttering.
Yeah.
And in them days, they had no such thing as speech pathology.
Mm-hmm.
They put you in the back of the class and call you dumb.
Yeah.
But my teachers made a mistake. They created a monster. They put me in the back of the class and gave me popular mechanics books and gardening and books. I learned how to garden. I learned how to rebuild an engine.
Wow.
I learned how to paint
Yeah.
by reading.
Yeah.
And I was kind of an introvert because I stuttered so bad and people laughed at me. So I wouldn't say a word. I would write it down on a piece of paper. And he says, I know you have a problem with your speech and everything. He says, maybe this will help. So I went in the house and he gave me a military issued harmonica. You know, back in World War II, they used to issue GIs harmonicas.
Really? Wow.
It had a chain on it so he could wear it around his neck so they can entertain each other in foxholes.
Okay.
They did that. And he had one. And he says, I'm going to give you this harmonica and I'm going to show you how to play and I want you to come back next summer. And if you don't know how to play these riffs, called foxtrots, they're called. And he said, if you don't know how to play these rhythms, I'm gonna. Could I give you an example?
Okay, great. Yeah.
Foxtrots is just a bunch of tunes put together, but it's actually everything you need to know about playing a harmonica. And I didn't know it at the time, and I went with that.
Okay.
Here it goes. That's like a square dance.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's everything you need to know if you want to learn how to play harmonica. You can play anything from there.
Interesting. Wow.
And he told me, he says, you better learn how. He didn't tell me how to play it. I just watched him. I went home that summer and I came back the next summer. I was playing that and more. He says, man, he says, you got it. Not only was I playing harmonica, I was singing.
Okay.
I was singing, and by me singing, that's what taught me how to speak.
Wow.
And even right now, when I'm speaking to you, I'm singing. I'm speaking in a rhythm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just muscle memory.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm speaking in a rhythm, and that's how I taught myself how to speak.
So music basically cured you of stuttering. Then.
Exactly.
Wow.
And I always tell people that. I didn't choose the blues. The blues chose me.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
How did you start performing?
Well, when I was, say 8 or 9 years old, after I learned how to play a few things, and it had gotten out in the neighborhood, that I used to do it in private. And then my brother said, my brother could play harmonica, so he entered me into a couple of talent shows.
Yeah.
And I really didn't know how it was going to come, the outcome, but I played in a couple of, my first tune that I learned how to play was Summertime.
Summertime. All right.
Yes.
Yeah.
and I learned how to play a few tunes. I learned how to do R&B, and I used to go in the sanctified church and play. I used to go in. They used to have these like sidewalk churches, and I used to go in the sanctified church and sit in the back and play with the rhythms.
Yeah,
I did that, and in Tampa, Florida, they have a guy that plays jazz. Actually, the first music I really learned to play was jazz.
Okay.
And his name was Bob Jackson. He played a B3.
Oh. Wow.
And he heard me play. And he told me, he said, just mimic what I do. And I was mimicking what he did. And I used to play with him a lot.
Okay. Okay.
So he taught me how to play a little jazz. And I could play jazz,
Yeah.
country and western. But blues is my thing.
Yeah. So why the blues? Why is the blues your thing?
Because the blues is like, I could express myself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I write my own music.
Okay.
And blues is like an everyday occurrence
Yeah.
of life laid down honestly. You know, they
Amen.
don't. Blues don't cut no corners.
Yeah. Well.
It can make you laugh. It can make you cry. It can make you happy. It can soothe your soul.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just like earlier, the blues is like a kickoff from gospel. Because back in the days when our forefathers were out in the fields and stuff, to soothe their pain and to ventilate themselves from that heat, you know, you can ventilate yourself by singing. People don't realize.
Right.
By moving and singing, and the body creates its own air conditioning.
Yeah.
So that's how they survived in that,
Yes, indeed.
in that heat. And a lot of the older people, just like you were saying earlier, that the blues is the devil's music.
Yeah.
It says, why you want to play the blues? Well, I wrote a song about that. It's called The Blues is Why Should the Devil Have All the Fun?
That's pretty good.
The blues is the only full-fledged American music. You know that, don't you?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
At the foundation of so much. Jazz, rock and roll, country music, you name it.
Exactly. Like country music comes from England.
Mm-hmm.
The English brought that over here with the jigs and the ballets and everything.
Yeah.
And jazz was actually created by black soldiers in World War II. People don't realize this. You had a lot of a lot of musicians got drafted into the military to play military music.
Yeah, right.
And these guys, they were in France, and they were so disgruntled about it. So a lot of them went AWOL. A lot of them stayed in France, and they started playing what you call defiant music.
Yeah.
And that's how the blues started.
Interesting.
In France.
Wow. Well, tell me a little bit about your music, because you mentioned it already about your songwriting, but you're known for like clever lyrics and sometimes some double meanings to what you sing.
Yeah. Believe it or not, I found myself writing music in my sleep.
Okay.
What about, I have a dream, then I wake up and the words are right there in my face. And I take them and I write them down.
Yeah.
Now, it might not be a complete song, but I write it down and I keep writing stuff down, and sooner or later I compilate all of the phrases that I've written down and make them rhyme or rhythm or make end or tell a story from the beginning. You tell the intro, middle, and the end, and that's how I come up with a song.
Wow, that's something. Where does that come from, you think? You wake up in the morning and you have lyrics to a song. Is that your mind working or divine intervention? What's happening there?
It's probably a little bit of both.
Okay.
And you know how you go to sleep or you've got something on your mind all week and you can't get it off your mind, like working hard You need money for this. You lost this. Your dog bit you. All that is the blues.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, each one of us here has the blues.
Yeah.
We just don't know how to put it on paper.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's just like you sitting there interviewing me.
Yeah.
This is your passion, right?
Yes, absolutely. I love this. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You love interviewing people.
Yeah.
That's a song.
Yeah. See, I never thought about it like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the song.
That's cool.
And how you're treated in this profession is a song.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, sometimes you're not able to get to where you want to be. It's a stumbling block on how you want to get to where you want to be because of one or two things, or a person,
Yeah.
or a situation, or finances. That's a song.
Yeah. 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 Life is a song.
It
Everything's
is.
a
It
song.
is.
Yeah.
Living, everything has its rhythm. Everything has a place. I've been kind of an outdoorsman too as a child, and by me being introverted, put it that way, I used to spend a lot of times in the woods by myself. And if you look at the animals and the insects, they got rhythm. They're singing a song,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I just look at these things and I incorporate it in my songs.
Yeah, yeah. So that's amazing. Something always hear rhythms, and as a kid, I like trains. But you hear the wheels rolling, that whistle blowing.
That's the blues, man.
Yeah,
That's the blues.
yeah. Amen.
Yes.
But before we run out of time, I want to ask you about 2019 and the accident you had in your van. Just talk about that.
You remember that, huh?
Oh yeah, I know about that. Yeah.
Okay, I was going to the Jackson, Mississippi Blues Society Blues Jam. As a matter of fact, the gentleman who was the president of Jackson, Mississippi Blues Society told me, he says, why don't you come down and do some stuff for me? I'll take care of you. I'll pay for your gas and everything. So I decided I'd do it. I got on the highway. I was going down Highway 20, head toward Jackson, and I was near Meridian, Mississippi. And a big tractor trailer drove up beside me, and the guy kept waving his hand, you know. And I'm wondering, I'm looking at him, what is he doing? And it's not safe to stop for people, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So just as I turn around, he slowed down. And when I slowed my vehicle down, a big flame came from under the dashboard.
Wow.
I mean, just boom in my face. I couldn't see anything. So what I tried to do is go over to the shoulder of the road.
Yeah.
And here's where military training came in. Boy, it helped. In the military, we got an evasive maneuver. If your vehicle hits a improvised explosive in the street, or you get hit by munitions, and the vehicle is, you're traveling at a clip 55, 60 miles an hour to get through an area.
Yeah.
And if you're hit and the vehicle is still going forward, you open the door and you roll down as close as you can to the ground.
Yeah.
And you roll with the momentum of the vehicle.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. I opened the door and I rolled out. And as I had on this big overcoat. Luckily, I had on the overcoat, a top coat. I was traveling down the highway rolling as a ball of fire. Yeah. And these teenagers young people, I don't say teenagers, they got out of the car and they jumped out the car and they looked down at me on fire. And the young lady said, "That's a man." She said she thought I was a piece of a couch or a rag or something fell out the truck, and it was on fire.
Wow.
So they helped me roll, and I took off the jacket. My eyebrows were singed, my beard was singed, and but I was in one piece.
Wow.
the adrenaline really saved me when I hit the ground because I hit that ground hard.
Yeah.
And I felt it 2 days later. I could barely walk. But to make a long story short, I got on my phone and I started dialing, and the girl said, "We're gonna dial the cops, dial." And I don't know how it happened. The fire truck must have been coming, doing maneuvers or whatever. So as soon as the vehicle caught flame, I tried to get my harmonicas out, but I couldn't get them out. They were sitting on the seat. About $1,200 worth of harmonicas.
Oh, wow.
I had more than $30,000 worth of equipment in there because I had come all the way from Florida and I was here, and I carried everything with me: uniforms, amplifiers, everything.
And you lost all that.
I lost everyone.
Gee whiz, wow.
And just as the fire was contained in the right in the cab, right at the engine compartment, and I figured the fire department could save it. As soon as they got there, it went whoosh, and it was gone.
Blew up.
That's quick.
Oh man, yeah. So how'd you recover from that? That's you lost everything you had.
That's another song
music
too.
and
You know? that is another song.
Yes.
I got in touch with somebody. Put me in touch with Music Maker, and Music Maker jumped in and says, "No, what can we do?" I says, "I really don't want you to do anything. What I want is prayers." No, and they explained to me what they were doing and how they were doing it, and I was asked to become a member because what had happened is that Artie Dean, he had been trying to contact me before because he heard my CD, he heard me play,
Okay.
and he said I would be exactly what they need to promote Music Maker and to promote myself.
Yeah.
And COVID hit.
Okay.
Now I wasn't residing in Birmingham at the time, but COVID hit, and by me having open heart surgery, I had open heart surgery in 2017 also.
Okay.
And right now I have an organic valve in my chest, in my heart, and I've had it for 6 years, and I'm doing fine.
Great.
You know?
That's good.
Medical miracle.
Yeah. Yeah.
And by me having those health problems, I decided to shelter in when COVID hit.
Yeah.
I didn't for a whole year. I didn't go anywhere. I made DoorDash rich. I made Uber Eats and DoorDash. I actually made them rich.
Better be safe than sorry. That's for sure.
Yes.
That's good.
Because believe it or not, I've had 16 friends and musician friends to die
From COVID.
from
Oh
COVID.
my goodness. That's-
because they didn't shelter in, they didn't believe it, or something. I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
Didn't wear masks. They didn't believe in staying in. They believe, and there it is, going to
Yeah.
parties.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, I was invited by Music Maker and the Magic City Blues Society. I was invited to go do some shows, and I declined. I says, "No, I can't do it." That was when COVID was fresh,
Yeah.
and people didn't believe, you know.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I believe in medicine and science,
Yeah.
and you know why I believe in it? Because I spent 10 years in the military, and what did they do to you in the military? When you step outside your door, what did they do? They give you 15 shots, right? They had a gun, and if you moved, it would cut you wide open. They would line us in a line like cattle,
Yeah.
and they would go pew pew pew. And I thought that was cruel, but it wasn't. It was to prevent diseases.
Save your life. Yeah.
I've been to 16 foreign countries, and every time I went, I never caught any of the diseases. Never caught anything.
Yeah.
So I owe it to them. And by me being ex-military and going through this, I said, let me be the guinea pig. Give me the first shot. I volunteered.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. That's great.
And then after it wasn't even 6 months fresh when I got mine.
Yeah.
My shot, Pfizer shot.
Yeah. Well, you've been through a lot and more ahead. So what's ahead for you? What's the future look like for Sugar Harp?
Well, what I want to do is continue to spread my music
Yeah.
and to continue to promote Music Maker, because the Music Maker has other artists that are not as fortunate as I am, and a lot of them are shut in. And what Music Maker does, they help them pay bills.
Yeah.
They help them with shelter. As a matter of fact, I have to say this also. I'm grateful to them, and I'm indebted because I bought a house and it needed a roof. They called me up one day and says, "You need a roof for your house?" I said, "Yes." It's a big hole in the kitchen. They put a roof on my house.
Wow. Free of charge.
He told me I didn't have to pay back a thing.
Wow.
He says, and that's what they there for.
Yeah.
So anytime he asks me, he says, jump, I ask him, how high you want me to jump?
So they've been good to your career, your life, everything.
Yes.
Music Maker Foundation.
Yes, out of gratitude. And I know one day I really will get discovered, but I am thankful for what I got now, and if I don't go any higher, I'm satisfied.
Yeah. Amen to that.
Yes.
You're a fascinating guy, Mr. Sugar Harp. Pleasure to meet you.
Same here.
Thank you so much.
And it was my pleasure.